Hey, it's Jen. It's been a little bit since I've been on your screen because we were in Flint last week. And actually, let me show you my shirt. Flint Lives Matter. It was quite a week. Jordan's already explained it to you, but we uncovered some new information that we'll be reporting on hopefully soon. And we premiered the documentary, and the people of Flint loved it. And of course, it was emotionally difficult. I know Jordan also mentioned we didn't film that, record that, because it was such an emotionally charged moment. So we did that. We interviewed some more residents, collected some more information, and so here we are. It's been kind of a whirlwind coming back home. I can't even believe that it's Wednesday already. So one of the things that we've done since we've been home is go through the polls that have come out that were conducted late last week. And so far, I know Jordan's gone over the CNN poll, which was crazy. If you saw his tweets or his videos on this CNN poll, as usual, the way that they did it was they did not collect enough data for younger sets of people. So basically, for all the people that would like Bernie, they got to say NA, NA, non-applicable, non-applicable, and then have these headlines, Joe Biden in the lead. So the CNN poll, if you haven't seen that video of Jordan's or those tweets of Jordan's, go check that out. You'll have to excuse me. I'm feeling sweaty here. I've been running around trying to get ready for this video. Jordan kind of sprung it on me last minute because he sent this Quinnipiac poll to me and he said, okay, can you go through and pull out anything you find interesting? Like, take notes on it and send it to me. And I like to do that because I have a background in psychology, and so it's, going through statistics and things like that. Sometimes I find exciting, especially when it comes to polling and all that, and making sure that these pollsters, these polling companies are doing what they're supposed to do. Which they never do. Never in politics do they do what they're supposed to do, which is have consistent methodology, have good sample sizes that are actually representative of the country, things like that. So anyway, he said, can you go through and pull out any notes? So I did this. I sent him this really nice email. Actually, let me show you this email that I sent him right now. One second here. So I sent him this really nice email, all laid out for him with all of my thoughts on this poll because he was going to do a video on it. So there it was, ready for him to go. And then he had a question about it or some comment about it, and I figured it was better to call him about it instead. So I called him up. I said, hey, no, you're looking at this a little bit wrong. Look at this instead. And I started explaining it and getting excited about it. And he goes, why don't you just make a video about it? And I'll throw to you during my non-live stream today. So I tried to wiggle my way out of it, but here I am doing the video anyway because I love you guys, and it has been a while since I've done a video. And actually, he's getting back surgery tomorrow, so I'll be doing videos probably for the next few days. So hopefully that's okay with you. It's okay with me because it's fun to interact and go through the news with you guys. One of the best parts of the day, right? So this is the Quinnipiac poll. We've already done the CNN poll. It was total BS. They did the polling so they could have the headlines they wanted. The Quinnipiac poll that I'm going to go through with you right now is actually a bit better. But it's not totally better, and I'll explain why. First, I'll go through the parts that they want you to see, their breakdown of the methodology, their breakdown of the poll, and then I'll share my notes with you like I did with Jordan, and we'll see what we really, really think about this poll. And it's no surprise, the poll saying that Biden is in the lead once again. So here we go. The Quinnipiac poll. The headline is, Biden surging among Democrats in presidential race. Quinnipiac University national poll finds. U.S. voters support wealth tax, oppose free college. So I'm not going to read this entire thing to you because that would be quite boring, but the gist of it is that former Vice President Joseph Biden is surging among Democrats and voters leaning Democratic with 38% of the vote, followed by 12% for Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, 11% for Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, and 10% for South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg, according to a Quinnipiac University national poll released today. California Senator Kamala Harris has 8% of Democrats and Democratic leaners, with 5% for former U.S. Rep. Beto O'Rourke of Texas. No other Democratic contender gets more than 2%. Blah, blah, blah. In today's survey among Democrats and Democratic leaners, 56% say Biden was the best choice to beat President Donald Trump, followed by Sanders at 12%. 44% say Biden would be the best leader, with Sanders and Warren at 11% each. 23% say Biden has the best policy ideas, with Warren at 19%. And these kind of mini headlines are interesting, especially this one where it says 23% say Biden has the best policy ideas, because actually, as you'll see in the polling, what people think are the best policy ideas don't match up with what Biden wants. They match up with what Bernie wants. So a lot of this is educating the people. A lot of this is polling methodology and the way they lie with statistics. But the polling is infuriating at points. Let's just say that. Among Democrats, 25% want a presidential candidate who focuses on fighting President Trump, while 70% want a candidate who focuses on other national issues. This is one huge takeaway from this poll that I think all media should pay very close attention to. People don't want to focus on Trump 24/7. 70% want a candidate who focuses on national issues. That's huge. The Democratic primary race suddenly gets real with a fast start by former Vice President Joe Biden and a very clear indication from voters that he is the only candidate who can send President Trump packing 18 months from now, said Tim Malloy, assistant director of the Quinnipiac University poll. Let's pause for just a second here. Here we have the polling company once again making declarations that media can then pull out and use. Oh, here we go, all done. Vice President Joe Biden is the only one who can beat Trump, send him packing. That's what they want with these polls. They want to be able to have the headlines that they want to have. And they're going to do whatever they can do to get those headlines. It's ridiculous. And while Biden, yes, he is polling first. In all of the polls that we've seen since he's announced, he is polling first. That doesn't mean you can make the headline that he's the only one who could send Trump packing, that he's, going to be number one from here on out, that we may as well all pack it in because Biden's going to win. It's ridiculous. And I don't think that it is the polling company's responsibility to make these declarations. So there you go, Mr. Tim Malloy, assistant director of the Quinnipiac University poll. They also talk about things like having a gay president, which thankfully most U.S. voters are totally fine with. Unfortunately, only 46% of Republicans are fine with having a gay man as president, which is just ridiculous. People need to get with the times. The good news is that there are some great policies that people approve of, especially younger voters approve of the Bernie sorts of policies, which I'll get into more in a bit. So, as I said, they conduct these polls, then they have these rundowns like they had with Tim Malloy that give you the headline that they want you to have, and that is Joe Biden is leading. That's it. So let's take a look at their methodology, because methodology is an extremely important part of polling, and this is how they conducted the polling. So this RDD telephone survey, so what they did was call people, was conducted from April 26th through 29th, 2019 throughout the nation. The responses came from 1,044 self-identified registered voters. So this sometimes polls include people who are not registered, but this was registered voters. And I'll skip all the boring parts like sampling errors and things like that, blah, blah, blah. And we had in this poll 456 Republicans or Republican-leaning voters and 419 Democratic or Democratic-leaning voters. So remember, even though this poll is about Democrats and Democratic candidates and policies, they polled about half of the respondents are actually Republicans or Republican-leaning. So that's important to keep in mind as well. It's not exactly representative of all Democrats if half of them are Republicans. And we're talking about the primary here. So this is another way that they can kind of skew the statistics, and that's why it's important to pay attention to methodology. They did conduct interviews in English or Spanish, depending on preference, and all data was collected and tabulated by Quinnipiac University poll, which is what I was saying. The data collected by there's actually not just Quinnipiac who's involved in this. There are other companies too, like Survey Sampling International, SSI. But I still say Quinnipiac should not be interpreting the poll. They should leave that up to media and others, because why are you interpreting your own poll? Let's see here. Methodological details. So they collected from both landlines and cell phones, which is better than it used to be, because it used to be they would just collect from landlines, which left out a lot of young voters. They called about 5 times. And actually, someone on Twitter made a fantastic point. How many young voters, when they see these numbers that they don't know calling them, just don't answer because they think it's a lender? Imagine that. If you owe student loans or other debt, you have people calling you, you're not going to answer the phone. I never answer the phone if it's someone that I don't know. It's just, I just don't. So I'll never get asked one of these questions. So I wonder what that has, that has a lot to do with it. They did try to account for the overall adult sample to make sure it was balanced according to recent census data. And unlike the CNN poll, they actually did not have to do NAs because they did collect enough young people to include, excuse me, frog in my throat. However, you'll see that the way they did that, the way they made sure they had enough young people, in quotes, to include young people, is they did 18 to 49. They included ages 18 to 49 as the young people, whereas in a later part of the poll, or a later part of the survey, they broke down young people by 18 to 34, and then 34 to 49, which makes a lot more sense. But they did this so that they could report things a certain way. Now let's see. This is the actual PDF. So what you can do is, instead of just going off of the headlines that people are giving you through the news or even through Quinnipiac's main page, is always look for the PDF documents so you can go through the polling data yourself. And it actually goes through and breaks it down. So once you get to this kind of small type, this is where it actually breaks everything down for you. And as you can see, it's a lot of numbers, a lot of statistics. I'm not going to bore you by going through every single part of this. We'll include the links so that you can do so yourself. But what I will do is go through the notes that I took and had sent to Jordan earlier so that you can have my thoughts on how this poll was conducted. As you can see, it's 15 pages long, and it really, really gets into the weeds. So let's go to my notes here. Let me make sure. Yep. Okay, so one thing that I noted in this email was I do not see an age breakdown. So what I would like to know is exactly how many people are in each category. So they categorize 18 to 49-year-olds as the young voters, but I don't see an age breakdown of how many are in each. So they tell us how many Republicans there are, they tell us how many Democrats there are within the sample, but they do not tell us how many are in each age category. That is something I would really like to know. And you can see in the methodology section, that's normally where it would be. If they were going to tell us the age breakdown, that's where it would be. And you can see that it is not there. Another thing that I noted, and I've already mentioned this to you, is that they categorize 18 to 49-year-olds for much of it They categorized 18 to 49-year-olds as the young group for much of it, but then later on they switched the age breakdowns into ages 18 to 34 and 35 to 49. So that starts on page 11. And I said, and my is there because it's another way to present the data. They probably didn't have enough 18 to 34-year-olds to break it down earlier on in the report, which is where it would matter. So that's my assumption. That's just an assumption there. They don't actually say that. And let's see. So on page 4, they do show, and excuse me for going through this a little bit slowly. My eyesight, my contact lenses are doing me wrong. They're failing me here. It's getting hard for me to see this small type. So on page 4 of this poll, they show that ages 18 to 49 are 25% for Biden. So the young people are more for Biden than they are for Bernie, according to this poll. And again, young people is 18 to 49. The 18 to 49-year-olds are 16% for Bernie. So among this age group, it's 25% for Biden and 16% for Bernie. Among ages 50 plus, it's 48% for Biden and 6% for Bernie. So among younger voters, the vote is more split across candidates, with Bernie, Harris, Warren, and Mayor Pete dividing the vote. Older people just like Biden, with a share of them liking Warren. So let's go to page 4 here. And again, I apologize for the clunkiness. I did not realize my eyesight was going to be this terrible. Time for me to get to the doctor. So you can look at this, you can pour through this data later and get a sense of what's going on. But here's where I pulled that from. 25% for Biden in the younger ages and 16% for Bernie in the younger ages. And then we have 48% for Biden in the older ages, 50 up, and 6% for Bernie in the older ages. The next thing that I found was interesting was on page 7, where the question was, if Dem or Dem leaning, which candidate has the best policy ideas? And that's a summary of what the actual question was. If you want to see the actual question, we can just go right on down to page 7. So this was question number 4. If Democrat or Democratic leaner, regardless of how you intend to vote in the Democratic primary for president, which candidate do you think has the best policy ideas? So go back to my little notes here. So among the very liberal, so they broke it down into very liberal, somewhat conservative. They broke it down like that. So among the very liberal, it was found that Warren has the best policies at 41%. So I found that really interesting. And Warren, she really has laid out her policies very, very thoroughly. If you go to her policy pages on her website, it's extremely thorough. So remember, this is not broken down by age right here. This is the very liberal section. And also among the very liberal, 27% of the very liberal believe that Bernie has the best policies. Here's what's interesting to me. Among the very liberal, only 7% believe that Biden has the best policies. Then we get down to the age breakdowns of the same question. So among 18 to 49-year-olds, 23% believe Bernie has the best policy ideas, then Warren at 17%, then Biden at 15%. And then among 50-plus-year-olds, 29% believe Biden has the best policy ideas, then Warren, then Bernie. So younger people believe Bernie has the best policy ideas, with Warren in the middle. Among older people, they believe Biden has the best policy ideas, with Warren in the middle. So that's quite interesting. That's on page 7 if you want to go through that data. It's right here. On page 9, the question was, one second. The question was, let me see which question I was looking at. If Dem or Dem leaning, do they prefer a candidate who focuses on fighting Trump or a candidate who focuses on national issues? So this was very interesting to me because the answer was the vast majority want the candidate to focus on national issues, and younger people more so than older people. But overall, Dem and Dem leaners want a focus on the issues, even though the poll focuses on Trump. And that part that I put, even though the poll focuses on Trump, is because the questions of this polling survey are so Trump focused. So that's what I found interesting, is because, most people don't want this focus on Trump, but the poll itself is focusing on Trump. And then again, I noted that one thing about this poll is it lumps 18 to 49-year-olds together when they are really very different and should be split into 2 or even 3 groups. And on this page also, Trump crushes in the polls for the GOP, which is concerning. You can see right here. This is all Republicans being polled, and Trump. So that's pretty scary. Then on page 11, suddenly they break the ages down to 18 to 34, 35 to 49. Let's go down to page 11. Here you can see 18 to 34, 35 to 49, whereas it was not broken down that way beforehand. Consistency is important for reporting polling data, so that was my opinion, my input there. And on this page, on page 11, younger people are across the board more likely to care about policy ideas versus being a great leader. So you can see that information there. And then the rest of the survey talked about actual policies. So younger people support a wealth tax, younger people support free public college, younger people support student loan forgiveness, and younger people support allowing people in prison to vote. So as you can see, those are Bernie-focused policies. The younger people are, the more they seem to like Bernie's policies. There's a lot more to this poll. It's 15 pages long. If you're a nerd like me, you can kind of pour through it and pull out the pieces you find interesting. But always, always remember how easy it is to lie with statistics, how easy it is to get the headline that you want to get. If you wanted to get a Bernie positive focused headline here, you could. If you wanted to get a headline positive for Warren here, you could. If you wanted to get a headline here positive for Trump, you absolutely could. Mayor Pete, same thing. Kamala Harris, same thing. You can twist these statistics any way you want to get any headline you want. So while this one was particularly good for Biden, you can lie with statistics, you can massage those headlines, you can get what you want to get. So it's early on. We're going to have polls out every single week, and we'll keep analyzing them. So stay smart about these polls. Don't fall for the tricks. Alrighty, bye-bye.